So not only is Piper and Weinberger and corrupt police and Paul Dragon going to say that they're not stalking, they're entitled to run a criminal investigation. No, they're not. They don't get to investigate themselves. If they say they're investigating me, they're admitting to obstruction, lying to police, and any other things that special prosecutors or attorneys general, state police, or Cousy wants to charge them with, because they know the Economic Services Division sent me into the police department to report. It wasn't an option. She said, you have to go to police. Not you should go to police, you have to go to police. When somebody went online, pretended to be me, and got Vermont Medicaid in my name doing an online application on May 4th, 2020, committed perjury on that application and then forged my signature. And then Safe Harbor wrote up 2 sets of medical records, complete fiction, making it look like I was in their clinic for a new patient visit or an emergency visit. One was an emergency visit, but it was over the phone, for which they cannot bill. And it did not make me their established patient. Under Vermont's Title 26, they can do an emergency, they can treat a patient during on an emergency basis that is not their established patient. It was an emergency because I was out of blood pressure meds that will kill you if you quit them cold turkey. Number 2, it was during COVID and they didn't want anybody in the ER, and all of the clinics were closed to established patients, much less new patients. I'm going to put a link to that recorded interview with Mike Goslin where he's as much as accusing Safe Harbor of doing it. That's Paul Dragon. And it's linked to all the other frauds and racketeering, which means Virginia, and I let him know it did not start here. That crap was done to cover for Virginia Piper at Honor Health and Clark Endlin at Catholic Health and Mizzou and ASU and U of A and all the crap, all the Medicaid fraud in Buffalo. So if Piper or McAfee or Paul Dragon says, oh, we're doing a criminal investigation. First of all, you know I'm terminally ill, and you know you're the ones making sure I don't get the cancer treatment. So you're trying to investigate yourselves. What's more, because Economic Services sent me in there and I was mandated to report those frauds, not only here in Vermont, but also the Medicaid fraud by University of Vermont and the HUD fraud in my name. I'm mandated to do that. That makes me immunized as an unpaid agent of the executive branch. I am mandated to assist the Attorney General and the state police and Hochul's federal investigation and Hochul's New York OIG in those investigations where they stole from New York Medicaid to cover the Medicaid fraud by all of the hospitals in New York, including Catholic Health. So I'm not only immunized because I'm terminally ill, I'm immunized because I'm mandated by law to report the public benefits frauds in my name that also includes DEA drug diversion by these doctors, many of whom prescribed narcotics and falsified the records as to why they wrote for them. And it's also drug diversion because they're letting the cancer get worse and worse and worse, so I'm going to have more and more surgeries, more and more treatment, and thus more and more pain management. They're supposed to jump in, fix the problem to reduce the risk or reduce the need for pain management, not increase the need for it. Whether they wrote for the narcotics or not, if they did, all those doctors at UVM that I recorded threatening me and not treating the cancer are guilty of drug diversion because they were covering for the doctors like Beth Sweeney and Elizabeth Wilson And all the doctors in Missouri and Arizona and Florida that wrote for narcotics and lied and said it was for chronic back pain. Oh, and let's not forget, before I ever went to prison, all those doctors wrote for narcotics, telling me it was my back when they knew it was uterine cancer, and then put false criminal allegations in the medical records. And Virginia Piper, since she's a suspect, she doesn't get to investigate herself, not only as a hospital administrator who has the Honor Health Cancer Treatment Network, where I recorded some doctors telling me the truth and some doctors lying and a bunch of nurses telling me the truth. That's a conflict of interest. But then again, Todd Blanche is conflicted as fuck too. How else am I immunized? I'm immunized because I'm also mandated to assist my father in the investigation into JFK as much as I can. If people are coming after me to kill him, I have to let him know that. And I have to tell him how they're trying to kill him and how they're trying to obstruct his ongoing investigation into the criminal organization tied to Mossad in Israel that assassinated a U.S. president. Though that U.S. president pandered and made it look like he wanted to end the war and wanted Israel to have to register as a foreign whatever it was, that was pandering. Just like all the civil rights crap, that was pandering. That the Kennedys taught all the pandering we see by these populists like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens. Trump pandered as a populist. Hillary, Obama, they learned that from the Kennedys. Joe Kennedy was a Hollywood studio head. Of course, they know how to use theatrics, which we know Hollywood is part of the propaganda anyway. Oh, and Joe Kennedy was such a Nazi that he wanted to make Hoover president, and he was such a Nazi, he was forced to resign as the ambassador, the British ambassador, something, or I don't remember what it was. But yeah, so I'm mandated to assist the JAG Corps in the war crimes, so she doesn't get to investigate me. Well, we're doing an investigation. Into what? Yourself? Her, because you committed all these frauds in her name. You stole from Arizona Medicaid and with United Health and Centene. So this is tied to I believe tied to the murder of the CEO in Manhattan. Ain't nobody produced Luigi's. I find it hard to believe that both NYPD and the Agnafilos are contracted as technical experts on law and order that's ultimately, I know it's owned by Universal, but BlackRock has controlling interest, and both of them have conveniently forgotten to demand. NYPD isn't demanding that the Agnafilos establish an alibi for Luigi, and the Agnafilos are conveniently not establishing the alibi and doing all this crap about, oh, his civil rights at the McDonald's and blah, 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 blah. Establish his fucking alibi. We know he's not the damn shooter. So I need to add that as another murder that's tied to this investigation. Though I'm not going to go into all the crap about Luigi. I mean, just produce, I mean, why hasn't his attorneys, the Agnafilos, subpoenaed Lyft to produce the ID of whoever rented that e-bike? Remember, they tore up Central Park because the e-bike was rented by the shooter and then docked at some docking station near Central Park. That goes through Uber. You got to have a credit card and an ID. And they tore up Central Park because of it. Then when I posted about, well, where's the ID of whoever rented it? The police says, oh, well, he never rented an e-bike. Then why did you tear up Central Park and just coincidentally find a backpack full of Monopoly money? Really? And the Agnophilos are so brilliant at the law that they have been the technical consultants along with NYPD for decades on that series, Law and Order. So I'm terminal, plus I'm mandated to report work comp injuries. And they're saying I'm under criminal investigation for reporting the work comp injuries. I'm also mandated to report child abuse. These falsified records are systemic. We know it's child abuse. We know kids are affected. Mandated to report the frauds in my name. Mandated to report the DEA drug diversion. I'm mandated to assist in the investigation into the assassination of JFK and RFK. The war crimes, JAG investigation, and what else? Because they're connected to Mossad in Israel, that's terrorist insurgents. That's not optional. None of those things are optional. So if Piper wants to, so she's either going to say, oh, I'm protecting her from her parents, or then she says, oh yeah, I'm protecting her from her parents, and yeah, she's committing all these crimes, recipient fraud, DEA drug diversion, blah, blah, blah. But we're not arresting her because, she's traumatized because of what her parents did to her. Okay, you don't get to investigate me. Once economic services, never mind the fact I got Buffalo City Hall raided by 4 different jurisdictions. So, but we're just gonna leave that out. When I have Officer Goslin saying that Safe Harbor did this, Piper and BPD and everybody, and Paul Dragon's going to have a lot of explaining to do why they're investigating me. If they admit to that, they're admitting to obstructing the investigation launched by Economic Services. All mandatory, none of it optional. It's not optional for me to report that they're stealing, that they're doing unbundling and upcoding frauds and getting Medicaid in my name illegally, and writing for narcotics under false diagnoses. So that makes me immune from prosecution. Oh, that's right, they lied and said that I just went in there on my own and falsely accused Marcus of identity theft and fraud. And that recording, I'm clearly telling the dispatcher, the dispatcher and then the responding officer Goslin, that I was sent there by Economic Services, had the awards letter, and on there was a sticky note where the people at Economic Services wrote their names down so I could tell the police who sent me, because I already knew I didn't trust the police. Remember, this was during COVID, and they just